When a couple arrived not to buy but to sell their child, this man was a nobleman, a collector of fighters for his arena. This couple handed over the baby and left without a word. This trader watched the nobleman's carriage depart deeply unsettled. He craved the strongest fighters for the most entertaining matches. He found most slaves to be weak and unsatisfying, but then he saw the child's father a true warrior. This man's powerful presence was undeniable, exactly the kind of fighter the nobleman desired. But he couldn't understand why such a man would sell his own child and dropped him into the pit with his arena champion. This champion was given orders to raise the boy, but he believed the child wouldn't last a week. This environment was brutal, no place for a child to live. Crawling among the bones and weapons of the fallen, he ate with a fierce will to survive, and the champion saw something extraordinary in him. For the first time, he was determined to raise this child. This champion admits he couldn't read the child's mind, but he understood everything. In his first arena match, this boy unleashed a terrifying aura of pure combat, a perfect fighting style the champion had never seen. It was something far beyond what he had taught him, as if the boy absorbed the arena's very essence. He realized this child was born fundamentally different. More time passed, and the champion's own time came, his strength failing him in a final brutal fight, and as his killer declared victory, the child appeared. Seeing the monster he had raised leap into action. Yet he continued to survive, growing into a man. An event approaches that will finally take him outside. A curly-haired student tries to lead his friend somewhere, but the friend is wary of the illegal gambling den. This student scoffs, calling it a legal competition for nobles, and pulls his reluctant friend into the crowd. This black-haired student follows for a moment, but then he stops dead in his tracks, stating he needs to pay his tuition instead. This curly-haired student smirks, holding a money bag. His friend's tuition money just snatched from him. He dumps the coins onto the betting table, telling his friend it's too late to back out now. He claims he bet his own tuition as well, trapping them both in the high-stakes gamble. This black-haired student despairs over his situation. He prays desperately for his money to be safe. He vows to cut ties with his manipulative friend, but his friend just signals for the event to begin. They're led down a dark torchlit corridor, revealing a brutal fighting pit below. These two students take their seats overlooking the stage, a former plunderer, now a slave warrior. He's called Deathbringer, a newcomer to this arena, and even the senior seems impressed by the spectacle. But his friend is horrified by the brutal reality. This student feels sick, questioning the whole ordeal, and asks if they bet on the plunderer, but his friend reveals they bet on someone else, a fighter named Happy Face, which sounds ridiculous just as the announcer calls for the next contestant. He wonders if the name is some kind of cruel joke, and the crowd erupts into a bizarre chant for Happy Face. This student is utterly bewildered by the strange atmosphere. Then their fighter appears, a boy with a huge innocent smile. This new fighter has no armor or weapons, with a bright smile that doesn't belong in this pit of death. William finally snaps, screaming that this is all wrong. This boy looks lost, unarmed, and sent to his doom, and he glares back, calling them all crazy. Even his opponent, Deathbringer, is confused by the sight. He came here to kill everyone and leave anyway. With a roar, he swings his massive club to strike. This spiked club smashes down towards the boy, and William flinches away, unable to watch the brutal impact, but he forces himself to look, fearing the worst. This boy lies motionless on the ground, seemingly defeated. But to everyone's shock, he slowly begins to stir, and William begs him to stay down, to not get killed. His mind screaming for the boy to run away, to at least ask for a weapon instead of facing this fate. He clenches his fist, trying to force himself to stop watching, and buries his head, wanting the horror to end. A lesson about the harsh lives of the less fortunate. As a young William argued that it was all so unfair. His father explained that some are born slaves, their paths set, telling him to look towards the beautiful kingdom instead, for that was their destiny, not the suffering below. This young boy clutched his book, absorbing the cruel lesson. Back in the present, William grips the railing tightly. His expression now hardened with a grim understanding. He stares down into the pit, a lone observer against the sky. His friend scoffs, asking if he's really this upset over money. While in the arena, Deathbringer charges again, telling the kid not to blame him for what's about to happen. He unleashes a devastating punch that connects hard, and a cruel grin spreads across his face. And for a split second, their eyes meet, because the boy is still smiling through the pain, as Deathbringer moves to finish the job. But the boy ducks under the massive swing and counters with a brutal kick to the face. This plunderer is stunned by the sudden reversal, leaving William speechless at the turn of events. A sharp crack echoing through the silent arena, followed by the roar of the excited crowd. William grips the railing, unable to look away, as the boy unleashes a flurry of attacks. He can only think of one word: domination. This unarmed boy is completely dominating the fight, who lies broken and defeated in the dirt. This once feared plunderer is knocked out cold, and the announcer declares Happy Face the winner. This crowd chants for Happy Face, but William is still in shock. His friend offers him the winnings from the bet, and William remembers his entire tuition was on the line, but all he receives is a single solitary coin. His friend just smirks, telling him to look at the betting slip. It reveals Happy's win rate is so high the payout is almost nothing. He returns the original money bag, explaining it was never truly at risk, and casually asks if he wants to watch more matches. William just looks down, completely drained by the ordeal. This matches that followed were exactly as he'd always imagined. Unable to watch, William left the arena within minutes. He returned to school and quietly paid his tuition, then resumed studying in his dormitory as usual. His academic awards sit proudly on his shelf, but as he holds his quill, his expression is tense. He grips the quill so tightly, it begins to crack, his gaze hardening with a new unsettling focus. This single copper coin sits on his desk, a constant reminder. He closes his book, his studies finished for the night, and blows out the candles, plunging the room into darkness. But William lies awake in bed, his mind racing. This night brings no peace, only nightmares of the arena trapping him in a vision of blood and chaos. He's drenched in sweat, realizing it's finally morning. Later, his friend is bragging to other students, terrified by the cold, intense look in his eyes. William's voice is low, asking to go to the pit again. Deathbringer suddenly wakes up bandaged and broken. A fellow fighter tells him to get ready for the next match, but the plunderer can only seethe with rage, haunted by the memory of his humiliating defeat. His companion explains that Happy Face adjusts his power, but Deathbringer scoffs at the very idea. He insists it was just a lucky kick, a moment of weakness, but the other man laughs, saying he'd be dead otherwise, a statement that makes Deathbringer's blood run cold. He points to the corpse disposal, his would-be fate, as Deathbringer's anger boils. A cheerful voice tells them to save it for the arena, its Happy Face, and the fighters immediately snap to attention. Deathbringer can only glare, filled with silent fury. Deathbringer glares as the other fighters sit in silence, scoffing at the idea that Happy Face is the boss here. He's convinced the boys' win was nothing but a lucky shot. He looks around at the others, calling them all weaklings, and declares that he's going to take over this place. He yells at Happy Face, calling him a little runt, and demands to know how he ended up in the arena. This boy smiles, explaining his father sold him at birth, saying he was raised by the people here and taught to fight. Deathbringer questions why they all tremble before him, then revealing a scarred and powerful physique. As Happy Face explains, his teachers are long dead, and now there's no one left to give him a real fight. He reveals his true role is to test new fighters. Deathbringer's mind reels, flashing back to the fight, to the boy's crazed smile as the club came down. A calculated move from a seasoned killer. This horrifying truth finally dawns on him. He was being toyed with the entire time. Happy Face smiles, saying there's no need to fight here because they're all fated to die in the arena anyway. He then interrupts himself with a brutal punch, sending Deathbringer flying across the room. This other fighters watch, one noting that all newcomers are like this. His friend suddenly appears, pawning off his duties for the day, handing William a pass and a bag of betting money. As he joins the long line to enter the arena again, meanwhile at a gravedigger's house outside of town, telling him it's time to collect bodies from the arena. This too set off with a donkey and cart, arriving at a field littered with the fallen. Sagar assures his master he can stack the bodies efficiently, and the old man praises his new apprentice's reliability. As Sagar lifts a body, he checks for a pulse and realizes all the bodies have similar marks. He deduces they were all killed by bare fists. He realizes the wounds are old, not from the final fight. He questions the bare-handed marks on every single corpse when his master suddenly cries out for him, and Sagar rushes over to see what's wrong. This old man points to a body, a missing royal. He matches the body's features to a missing person notice, confirming a royal missing for a month was found here. But his master grabs him, telling him to wait, warning that reporting this could put them in danger. He fears the king would blame them for the body's condition, suggesting they should just bury the body quietly. He declares that justice must be served no matter the cost. He turns and walks away, promising to return. Sagar knows this discovery means execution for everyone at the arena. Back in the line, William holds his pass, vowing one last visit, just one more time, to watch Happy Face fight. Elsewhere, a storm suddenly rolls in with a crash of lightning. A woman rushes to bring in her laundry as the royal knights suddenly arrive in force. They've come for the arena, standing before it in the pouring rain, and their commander slams his weapon down with a thud. He announces that a royal murderer is hiding inside, ordering his men to capture everyone or kill any who resist. Meanwhile, inside the pit, another brutal match is underway, but the crowd is bored, complaining about the lackluster fights. This announcer steps forward to introduce the main event. He reminds them of a serial killer who terrorized the village. This nocturnal demon was unstoppable, meant to be in prison. But the announcer reveals he's here tonight, and his first opponent is none other than Happy Face. William stares in utter disbelief, shocked by the news, as the announcer introduces the nocturnal demon himself. This killer smiles, seeing this place as a paradise for slaughter, and prepares to enter the ring with a sinister grin. But a heavy boot suddenly blocks his path, and he turns to see the Royal Knight Commander standing over him. This commander realizes the arena's owner must have royal connections, as the killer looks up at him with a strange expression. His eye suddenly glows with a menacing red light, and he notices a door has opened behind the knight. This killer realizes they've even given him a weapon, seeing it as a green light to go wild, and with a single swing he sends the killer flying. This announcer waits in confusion for the main event as the crowd murmurs that it must have been a lie, but then someone points toward the entrance. As the commander issues a single chilling command, "Kneel," he declares everyone is a suspect in a royal murder. And a man tries to flee, proclaiming his innocence. A brutal message that resistance means death. William kneels in shock, his money scattered on the ground, while the commander scolds those who haven't complied. But one person is still standing, Happy Face, with a smile. This commander asks if he finds this amusing, and the boy's eyes suddenly glow with a dark power as he lunges forward in a blur of motion. but Happy Face grabs his weapon mid-swing, digging his feet into the ground with immense force. He stops the heavy mace with his bare hands, leaving the commander utterly stunned by his strength. With a grunt, Happy Face pushes back against the mace, his smile widening as he overpowers the commander, but the boy just stands there anticipating the move, realizing he's too close for a proper swing, seeing the perfect opening for a counterattack, sending the commander flying with a brutal impact. Happy Face presses his advantage with a kick, but the commander's eyes show he's not done yet. William is shocked that the knight is still standing. This commander grits his teeth, readying another swing, unleashing a powerful horizontal slash. Just as Happy Face lands on his shoulders, Happy Face grins down at the defeated commander as the knights unleash a volley of arrows, but he deflects them all with a flurry of kicks. This commander curses his men, watching in horror. Happy Face lies on the ground, pierced by arrows, still smiling. This commander can only stare at the wounded boy. He asks if the kid wants to die in humiliation, and decides to grant that wish right now. But a voice suddenly screams for them to stop. It's the announcer rushing towards them in a panic. He pants, trying to get the commander's attention, explaining the boy only fought because he thought it was a match. He calls him a trained dog who attacks anyone in armor. Happy Face just lies there with that same empty smile. This announcer claims the expression is a disability caused by damaged facial nerves that froze his smile in place. But the announcer swears that it's the truth, revealing he's been this way since he was a baby. He was even smiling when he was abandoned by his parents, and he even laughed when he was stabbed and bleeding. He even smiled as his guardian lay dying before him, and because of this he was called a demon and tormented in prison, but he always survived because he was a natural fighter. This announcer recalls watching from outside the cell, knowing he's seen this kind of misunderstanding before. A boy covered in blood with a smile frozen on his face. He explains that behind the smile the kid is always terrified, seeing only a monster who grins through the pain. This crowd was captivated by this bizarre display, vowing this is his repayment for the joy Happy gave him. This commander's weapon looms over the wounded boy as he dismisses the story, declaring everyone will die anyway. He swings his halberd, silencing the announcer for good, and later the announcer and arena staff are executed. Their gallows are placed right below the king's balcony, a sight that finally calms the monarch's rage. Meanwhile, in a prison cell, William sobs in fear, having heard that everyone involved is next to die. He can't understand what he did to deserve this, begging for his life as he breaks down completely. A voice asks if he's okay. It's Happy Face, and William looks up, whispering his name in disbelief, before scrambling back, shocked to see him in the cell. The boy explained he'd been there all along, that the boy he saw filled with arrows had heard him ask if he was okay, only for the kid to say he faked it all to survive when Happy Face asked if he was scared. Admitting with a wide smile he was terrified of dying, trying to explain the sheer absurdity of it all, but the boy simply told him it was okay when a guard suddenly shouted a new decree. At once, William's family rushed to his side as Happy Face watched from his own cell, turning back to call out the boy's name, a lesson. He was only now beginning to grasp that their fates were predetermined from the start. As a child, he only cried for his father, but knew that wasn't a reason to be executed, as his family pulled him away from the prison, still too weak to act on his own will, until the boy told him it was okay, seeing him standing right at the bars of his cell elsewhere. An official watched the freed prisoners leave, ordering the rest to be sent to the gallows, but a guard stopped him, mentioning a special case, making him a slave instead of being executed, and the official demanded to know who it was. The guard explained the person had no name, and the official understood the announcer's final act. A week later, at a desolate slave market, Trader watched the boy in his cell, deciding it was best to just let him starve, when a voice suddenly offered to buy the child, but the trader claimed no children were for sale. She just pointed to the boy crying so sadly, and the old woman insisted she would take him, seeing his pain reflected in her own gaze. Later, her granddaughter was shocked by the news, worried about her grandmother being alone with him. Her grandfather said they were old and needed help, but she still couldn't bring herself to trust a slave, so she decided to visit and judge him for herself. The old woman told him to get cleaned up when a loud growl echoed through the room, and she realized he hadn't even been fed, quickly sending him to wash. While she cooked, she explained that tomorrow he must work for his food, and he asked if his work would be fighting, telling him not to say such frightening things, as his duties were simple chores, not combat. Happy Face was told to go and wash up, quickly dipping a single foot into the wooden tub, as a memory of shivering in the cold flashed by as he felt true warmth for the very first time. He sank down into the bath, his scarred back exposed, a simple comfort he had never known in his life. It felt as if all his past pain was washing away. And afterwards he was given clean clothes, a warm meal simmering over the fire, in a home where he was finally cared for. The old woman even tended to his wounds. He called her master, the only title he knew, but she gently asked to be called grandmother, a word that was completely alien to him, so she asked him what was on his mind. He timidly asked if he could go outside, and after a moment of silence she agreed. He stood beneath the open sky, finally free, remembering being a child in a dark room, and the words of his guardian in their cell, who promised a world far bigger than any prison. He looked back over his shoulder with a smile, gazing at the country house that was now his home. The old woman told him he was free to leave, but he walked back inside, having seen all he needed, to his bare feet, stepped onto the wooden floor, reminding him of his first steps as a toddler, and the man he called Dad who held him. And seeing that same kindness in the old woman's eyes, with a bright smile, Happy Face said he was ready to work. And she returned his smile with pure warmth as the boy, now in an apron, welcomed him. The old man asked his wife about the child she brought, and she defensively insisted that this was the one. He just laughed, knowing their granddaughter would be surprised, and decided they should all get along from now on. Happy Face looked on with such a hopeful expression, the three of them forming a new family. And for him, it was the warmest day of his life. But that peace was suddenly shattered by a rock while that night William stared out a broken window, living through the coldest day of his own life. Within a week, the arena story had spread through the school, and William was branded a criminal in his own dorm, his awards taken and his scholarship cut. And with expulsion looming, everyone turned their back on him. He stood alone, his future crumbling before his eyes, remembering his father begging an official for mercy, the shame of it twisting in his gut. He stormed out of the room, determined to fix this, pounding on the senior's door, shouting for him to come out, insisting he was innocent and never saw royal, as the senior scoffed, telling the barbarian to get lost, and William's face contorted with betrayal and rage. The senior mocked him in front of everyone as his hand tightened on the wooden pass. He finally snapped, lunging forward in a blur, and smashed the pass into the senior's face. The other students grabbed him, calling him crazy. But the senior just smirked, saying his expulsion was confirmed. That night he was kicked out of the dormitory and fled to the mountains to cry alone. William wept alone in the mountains, feeling hopeless, when a cheerful voice asked if he was okay, and he looked up in shock, recognizing Happy Face. The boy said he was just looking for a snack, offering a bright red mushroom with a smile. William quickly warned him that it was poisonous, while from the bushes, a group of men watched them. One of the men confirmed he came from the Nobles University, so their leader assumed he must be rich, dismissing the boy as a dim-witted companion, their eyes glowing red with greed for gold. And William was moved by her kindness toward the boy, while Happy Face just laughed, glad to be alive. He then asked William why he was crying earlier, but before he could answer, they were interrupted. A man emerged, asking what a noble was doing here, and the boys turned, realizing their danger. More armed men stepped out from the darkness, and William's expression hardened as he told Happy to get down. Happy looked on, confused, as William fell to his knees begging for his life, and offering all his money. The bandits just laughed at his pathetic display. The leader revealed their real target was his parents, and as they moved in, he insisted he wasn't a noble. One of them grabbed Happy Face, laughing at the simple boy, but the boy suddenly smashed a fist into his jaw. The bandit dropped to the ground out cold as Happy Face turned with a chillingly wide grin. Another bandit accused him of the attack, and he brought it down with brutal force. A second man fell unconscious in the grass. Happy Face cracked his knuckles, ready for more, prompting the furious leader to order his death. The man lunged forward with his blade drawn, but the boy dodged and countered with impossible speed, landing a kick that sent the leader flying, then effortlessly evaded another attacker's swing from the ground. He grabbed a fallen axe, his eyes glinting, and in a whirlwind of motion took down another man. The leader could only stare in absolute terror as the boy stood over them while they begged for their lives. And a chilling memory surfaced that he was an arena champion. The remaining bandits screamed in terror and rage as Happy Face turned to William with a blood-splattered grin, leaving him to wonder if this was even possible. He remembered the Royal Knight's defeat also with bare hands. His gaze then fell down to the ground, where he spotted a wanted poster near a body. He picked it up, reading the arrest notice, learning these men were the infamous exile clowns. William explained this to a clueless Happy Face. He revealed they were the largest criminal group in the kingdom, with a bounty placed on them by the king himself, and William's eyes widened, realizing the reward was huge, suggesting they turn the men in for the money. The boy's eyes lit up at the word bounty. But at the office, an official denied the claim, but the man said his slave status doesn't change, so William offered to put the bounty in his own name, and the official processed the paperwork for him. He immediately gave the pouch of money to Happy, tell buy food, not gather mushrooms. But Happy just smiled, admitting he didn't know how to shop, so William offered to teach him how to shop. They walked through the town, growing closer. The two of them parted with a cheerful goodbye. William watched him leave with a small smile, letting out a heavy sigh alone on the street. The next morning finally arrived, while the senior he attacked sat with a bandaged head. The head official stood to deliver the judgment. The official recounted the assault on the other student, but then he paused for a dramatic effect, awarding him a medal for defeating the exile clowns, leaving the boy shocked. By order of the king, his crimes were forgiven. The senior seethed, unable to comprehend this turn of events, sneering at the thought of a commoner's family having such power. The story then flashed back to the night before, where Happy Face tossed and turned, unable to sleep, his body racked with a sharp internal pain, making him wonder if he was just hungry. But the truth was, his body, conditioned for battle, found that peace was a source of discomfort. And after the fight, he finally felt at ease. He slept soundly for the rest of the night. Meanwhile, a blonde person arrived, warmly greeting the family. An older man asked about the little one they'd taken in, and the blonde person revealed a small gift for him. They called out to the boy to come see, and Happy Face appeared in the doorway with a huge smile. The blonde person froze, dropping the gift in shock, a small wooden bird falling to the ground. Happy Face just waved, introducing himself with a grin. Later, the farmhouse, the mood was tense. The blonde person told the older man they were scared, but he calmly suggested they just watch him a bit longer. From what he'd seen, the boy seemed like a good person. Outside, Happy laughed with her, unaware they were being watched. The old man said he was the brightest person he'd seen in a long time, and above all else, he was an excellent worker. As outside, he cheerfully carried a heavy barrel for her. The old man got emotional, glad things would be easier now, but the blonde person remained skeptical and thoughtful. Later, an axe rested on a chopping block surrounded by logs. The blonde person grabbed it, insisting they could have done this without a slave. A log split cleanly in two with a sharp crack in the background. Happy walked by carrying buckets of water. The blonde person stopped asking if he already fetched the water. They told him to rest, saying they would handle the firewood, and Happy Face happily agreed with a wide grin. He set the heavy buckets down by the well, then plopped down on the grass to watch. They turned, annoyed, asking why he was still there. He explained he wanted to learn since it was his job now. A small smile appeared as they admitted that was a good attitude. They told him to watch and learn well, gripping the axe handle with a new focus. They tied back their hair, getting serious about the task, and brought the axe down with a powerful swing. Both of them fell silent as the work went on until they nervously explained how to make kindling. With a grunt of effort, they swung the axe high and brought it down, splitting the log perfectly in two. They looked up with a triumphant, proud smile, eagerly asking if he saw their perfect swing. The old man watched from above, smiling to himself, until the grandmother arrived, telling them to stop. The blonde person, Winnie, asked if they needed more wood, but the grandmother revealed he'd already chopped a huge pile. Winnie stared in disbelief at the mountain of firewood, then turned to Happy, confused by his earlier request. He explained he wanted to learn proper form since his shoulders hurt, and Winnie panicked, saying he should have told her he'd done so much. As Winnie fretted, the grandmother told Happy to go rest, and she thanked him for his hard work, leaving Winnie fuming. The sun began to set over the farm. Winnie relaxed in the bath, admitting it was nice having help, and with the chores done, the house felt peaceful. But as she dried her hair, she heard a noise outside. Watching him run off with a large basket on his back, and she wondered where he could possibly be going so late. Winnie burst in, asking where Happy had gone, and the grandmother recalled giving him his freedom after work. The old man mentioned he went out the previous night too, leaving Winnie to wonder what he was up to so late. Elsewhere, Happy Face clutched a jangling bag of coins. He called out for William with a huge grin, and the door creaked open just a crack as a small girl asked who was there. William appeared, telling his sister Ellie to go inside, but she grabbed his face, asking where he was going. He gently told her he was just going to the library. Ellie waved them off as they headed out into the street. William admitted he didn't expect him to come so quickly, and Happy asked if it was okay for him to be out. William just smiled, saying of course it was. After all, the boy had saved his life. He offered to explain everything on the way to the market, but Happy held up papers, saying he had other plans. The story shifts focus back to the two boys as Happy explained he wanted to fight again, but needed help reading. William was shocked, but Happy eagerly offered to split the money. William felt indebted and was also drawn to his fighting style, and Happy needed a legal way to fight to stop the pain at night. So the two began meeting every night for bounty hunting. Happy wondered if they'd find a target. As William said he had a lead, they grabbed the newest wanted posters from a desk. But as this continued, suspicions at home began to grow. Ellie threw a tantrum, crying that he went out every night, and his parents exchanged a worried, silent glance. Meanwhile, the wooden bird sat on a windowsill. She clutched the bag, wondering what he was doing every night. Elsewhere, two chests were filled with bags of coins. A heavily armored knight standing guard over the treasure. He noted that soldiers no longer ignored him, and Happy cheered that William found their target. He came for the lowest bounty, but found a monster instead. The knight told them to leave, assuming they were just rookies, and William realized he'd been a criminal all along, one that no one had ever been able to catch. He nervously tried to back away from the fight as Happy launched a surprise attack. The impact threw him back to the ground, leaving the knight unimpressed by the reckless charge. He taunted the boy, saying his knee must be shattered, but Happy just limped forward, laughing wildly, begging him to run away. While he still could, the knight simply said that it was too late. He scolded them for not taking his offer of mercy, unleashing a brutal combination of attacks, barely dodging a crushing blow from the mace. The knight's attacks were relentless and powerful, and a heavy strike finally connected as the knight raised his mace for the final blow, until William threw himself between them, screaming, "Stop." William looked up, confused by the knight's pause and help, because it let him go back to school, but he realized now this wasn't an arena, and he cried sorry for leading his friend to death. The knight raised his bloody mace to strike, looking down to say he reminded him of himself, and with a huge grin revealed it was all an act. Then in a flash, he kicked the mace from his hand, and the knight let out a grunt of pure shock and began to explain his past with his master. He had to learn to pretend for entertainment. The shattered knee, the pained limp was a performance, and with the truth revealed, he tossed the mace aside where it rolled to a stop at the knight's feet, and with a confident smile beckoned him to come get it. As Happy explained, he never fought because he liked it, revealing he fought to avoid being tortured to death, but the trauma was now embedded in his body, and that's the reason he has to fight now. He landed a solid kick against the shield, but the knight taunted him, saying it was useless, as the two exchanged a flurry of blows. And the knight clenched his fist in frustration, and in an instant he was in the knight's face, catching the arm that was wielding the mace, where Happy noticed a crack in the armor, realizing it was still too strong to break. So he unleashed a furious barrage of punches, followed by a devastating kick to the head. Another powerful kick sent the knight flying back, who clenched his fist, screaming in pure rage, dodging a wild swing to land another kick. And he grabbed the knight by the helmet. Happy grinned, raising his foot for a brutal stomp, and the knight let out a pained scream, yanking the dazed man up by his collar, but stopped, pinning the knight with his foot as the armored man could only gasp for air, and the knight's eyes widened in absolute terror, kicking the knight away from his own defense while Happy stood ready, a grin on his face. From the sidelines, William saw the fight had paused, realizing the armor was now a heavy burden, but Happy's attacks still weren't enough, and the knight's new strategy was to just stand because he knew Happy was only targeting his head, and called out his name to get his attention, telling him not to interfere in the fight again because he was the only friend Happy ever had, and William was left stunned by this confession as Happy promised to show him a real victory. He then reached down to the battlefield floor, picking up a broken spearhead from the dirt as Happy declared he was about to get serious, reminding him that every other blade had shattered, and taunted him for trying such a pathetic tactic, whose eyes widened in confusion at the attack. And the knight scoffed at the pointless move, for it was a distraction, and Happy was already there as Happy closed in for the final attack. As his weapons clattered uselessly to the ground, for Happy had him trapped in a powerful hold, his hand clamped tightly over the knight's face, warning him that any movement would bring more pain, and the knight gasped for air, completely overwhelmed as Happy ground his teeth, applying more pressure, telling his opponent to finally give up. And with a surge of strength, he lifted him high. William watched, stunned by this display of power, then turned to William with a sudden cheerful smile, explaining the knight just passed out from the pain. He looked at the fallen knight, calling it a messy fight, and mentioned his former master hated such brawls, promising to trust Happy completely from now on. And a genuine happy smile spread across his face as he asked if they were ready to leave the area, but then said he hadn't slept in days, admitting he was exhausted even during the fight, as the boy instantly fell fast asleep on the grass, and wondered what Happy used for the real attack, questioning if a weapon was still inside the knight. He leaned in for a closer look, shocked by the incredible weight of the armor, so he decided to just hurry and make his report, and both parties stared at each other in confusion. The commander of the group looked on suspiciously, and a flicker of recognition crossed his face as he glanced back at the weapon in William's hand, when a younger knight suddenly shouted in excitement, explaining his unit was ambushed by that criminal. And concluding William must be a bounty hunter, he asked for a name, and William nervously introduced himself. The soldiers recognized his name from a recent incident, amazed that a student won with a broken spear, and the knight explained rumors were spreading about him. He was told to leave the bounty processing to them, and they offered to escort him from the forest. He saw the blood was only smeared on the tip, realizing none of the weapons here caused the wound. His subordinate questioned what the real weapon was, and nervously insisted his friend was just sleeping, but the commander watched them leave full of suspicion. Elsewhere, a captured man knelt before his leader. The scarred leader reminded him of their oath not to run, an oath he broke by losing to a mere student, and the man could only weep and apologize for his failure, but his plea was met with a swift, brutal execution. The leader held a bloody dagger, stating shame happens only once, and rallied his followers as the exile clowns who fight to the death. In another dark room, a woman was asked for intel, confirming she'd identified the bounty hunter as William, and a new target was declared, and it was our boy. His son raged that William's family was new money, but the father seemed unimpressed by the outburst. He told his son to personally teach William a lesson, handing him a document called the Brigands' Covenant, which was a contract for an armed group they used, and the order was given to send them after William. The scene shifts to a bright, peaceful day where a woman walked through a bustling town as a body crashed onto the street before her. Two men stood over a pile of fresh corpses. The younger man questioned why the case was closed, explaining the dead are exile clowns, so no one cares. He recalled seeing old bruises on the bodies, marks identical to those on the arena victims. Just then, a young person arrived calling for Shovel Grandpa. She headed inside, making small talk with the old man. The old man joked about his impending doom when the young woman turned around, suddenly confused, and greeted Sagar with a warm smile, as she offered him some herbs as well. The old man told Winnie she was too generous, but she said she wants to care for Sagar too. The old man noted Sagar had lasted over a month, and the old man asked what was wrong as she began to confess her own worries. Later, an old woman was shocked to learn they hired a slave, but his past at the arena is what troubled her most, and she voiced her fear that he was up to no good. An investigator revealed the city's only arena was destroyed, but Winnie was certain that's where Sagar came from. He explained the contestants were all vicious criminals, and any survivor would need powerful backing that could defy even a royal decree. He suggested her grandmother hired a very dangerous man, and Winnie agreed to find the slave documents for him. Winnie left the two men to their conversation, as the old man gave Sagar a grim warning, telling him he'll find a blade before he finds the truth. But Sagar just wants good people to survive in this world, a conviction he held with all his heart. William arrived home carrying Happy on his back and carried him toward the nearby farmhouse, and entered to find Winnie and her grandparents inside, and soon they were all gathered by the fire. Winnie asked if they go bounty hunting every night, and William decided to tell them the whole story, his life in the arena and his facial disorder and the constant pain that kept him from sleeping, moving the grandmother to tears with the tragic tale, and Winnie's suspicions finally began to fade. With the story told, a fire crackled warmly and a bed was prepared for Happy's first peaceful night. A new dawn broke over the quiet farmhouse, and Happy woke up, his face lit with a joyful smile, his eyes wide with a wonder he's never felt before. He looked up to see Winnie standing over him, who gently asked why he hid his constant pain. He could only look back still smiling, but silent as Winnie apologized for misunderstanding him for so long. He finally explained his deepest fear that in the arena the useless were thrown away, but Winnie told him this isn't the arena, and that her grandmother already considers him family. She promised to cure him so he never has to fight again. Vowing their family will help him live a normal life, she reminded him she's an herbalist for a reason, reaching out her hand with a determined smile overcome with emotion. Happy looked at her hand. He then revealed he bought something with his first earnings, and slipped a simple shining ring onto her finger. He just smiled innocently, asking what was wrong as she frantically explained it was a wedding ring. The grandfather held out a bag of money, and Happy insisted they take it all for his cure. Overcome with emotion, the old man hugged him tightly, promising to use the funds for the family. As her grandmother approached with a knowing smile, all of Winnie's previous suspicions finally melted away. She now understood why her grandmother called him a child. He was pure innocence, even gifting them rings as well. He read it while resting on a rooftop as William approached, offering to buy him a meal when the nobleman's son suddenly appeared begging forgiveness, and agreed to talk with the man for a moment. As they walked away, Sagar watched from above. The nobleman's son muttered a curse under his breath, then turned back to William with a false apology. In a flash, he shoved William off the high ledge. He hit the hard stone with a sickening thud. Before he could recover, a group of thugs surrounded him. William struggled against the thugs, demanding to know who they are. As the nobleman's son approached the building where they'd taken him inside, the thugs slammed William to the ground, and he looked up in agony, asking why this was happening. The nobleman's son watched the brutal assault from above, William's hand lying bloodied on the cold floor. His rival loomed over him with a sneer, admitting his hatred. William asked what he did wrong, but was told he was at fault. He didn't understand the source of such deep resentment, and got a vicious kick for not knowing his place. The nobleman's son scoffed at the idea of earning respect, telling him only power and family matter in this world. He taunted William, claiming everyone at school hates him too, saying no one wants a nobody to succeed, and they'll celebrate his demise. The nobleman's son prepared to spit on him, a final act of utter contempt. He told William to learn how to grovel in his next life. William could only hang his head in defeat. The nobleman's son ordered his men to finish the job. He turned and left the room, closing the heavy door and locked it from the outside, sealing William's fate. The nobleman's son gripped the handle, thinking this was nothing, just a natural display of his authority and power. From above, Sagar watched the villain walk away, realizing the thugs were mercenaries on a kill contract. He scoffed at the disgusting methods of the nobility, but he never imagined it would be today. In a flash, someone else crashed into the building, a blur of motion that left Sagar stunned. Inside, the thugs mocked their amazing bounty hunter. William thought of all the hard work he's done, all the struggles he's endured to get this far, only to die because of some noble's mood. He collapsed in tears as the thugs taunted him. He realized that without status, he could change nothing, haunted by the image of a small, disappointed child. Suddenly, a woman grabbed him by the hair as the thugs demanded to know who she was. She slapped William hard, trying to snap him out of it. She scoffed at the idea. She took down their men, explaining there were two people at the scene, and demanded to know who the second person was. The thugs realized she was one of them, an exile clown. They threatened her, telling her to back off now, as she taunted a fallen mercenary with a chilling smile. As Sagar watched from the shadows, completely undetected, Sagar questioned who William was to have so many enemies. Realizing this was far beyond what he could handle, the woman interrogated William about the nobleman's son, pressing her blade to his throat for answers, a final deadly warning, revealing that Happy is a former arena slave eager to give his friend a handmade gift. She explained their revenge involves wiping out the entire bloodline, and her boss was likely at his house right now. At that moment, Happy's family heard a sudden noise. The woman turned to leave, ready to find Happy herself, but William desperately reached out, begging her to stop. He remembered Happy calling him a good person, and how he laughed thinking he was about to die. William recalled Happy's words about the family that saved him, his hand clenched into a tight, trembling fist. He lay broken on the floor, consumed by his failure, glaring at the woman, telling her to just kill him, remembering how he let the nobleman's son drag him away. Realizing his cowardice cost him everything, he pounded the ground in anguish amidst the fallen thugs, a single thought burning through his mind: he needs to change. He struggled to his feet, his body screaming in protest, determined to change and protect them if he still can. A dark power awakened within him as he grabbed a sword. He will change now. Meanwhile, the nobleman's son returned, annoyed. The door was open, and looked inside with a flicker of confusion, and tumbling to the ground in a heap. And the coward started begging for his life, but William simply told him to get lost. The son slowly backed away from it all, realizing he should have used one all along, and the scene shifted to a peaceful meal. The mother agreed it was a good choice, but Happy revealed he was a slave, declaring that a slave is just a slave. Then a sudden knock echoed at the door, and the little sister wondered who it was, and she screamed for her mother in terror, their boss giving a brutal order to use the sister as bait for William, and she cried out in pain and fear, calling for her mother as she was dragged, rushing immediately toward the door, who promised their deaths would be quick. But Happy just picked up a bowl of soup and hurled it at the attacker's face. Happy calmly told the man to save his wife, and the attacker confused by this as his boss's voice warned of a variable, and the father was urged to protect his wife. The attacker deduced this wasn't William, and he confronted him asking who he was, but Happy just smiled and lunged forward, and landed a brutal kick to the face, stunning the attacker with its force, making him realize this was no easy foe. Happy dodged a flurry of attacks as if he could see every single move, and the attacker tried to regain control, resolving to use his full power now. And the attacker froze in utter shock, demanding to know how he knew that name. But the man scoffed, claiming he learned it at its origin, leaving the attacker utterly confused. A master brought to the arena by force, and the attacker demanded to know more as Happy casually asked him to attack, but Happy just watched with a calm smile, and the attacker's eyes widened in disbelief, were a defense for a single decisive attack. Then revealed the founder was blind and the curves were made to cover all sides, and with a grin he showed the real sword dance. He seized the attacker's wrist and turned the man's own blade on him, whose final fight was always against him. The attacker was broken by the fatal blow, threatening that the little girl would die too, as Happy's smile returned, demanding to know where, and he twisted the man's arm with force, who finally apologized for his mistake, where the attacker revealed it was a trap, but Happy just turned with a knowing grin. Who said he was doing this for William, remembering how his mentor called him a monster, gasping the word with his final breath. Leaving a young masked Happy over the bodies, and the people at the farm were kind, making him feel human for the first time. He asked the father to tell Ellie not to worry, his friend was walking to his death, and with grim resolve he decided to go, yelling for someone to report the attack. Who fought off attackers before going home, and the captain dropped his food in shock, and the captain wondered why they were so bold, leading his men to intercept at full speed. He realized it was because of William's fame. But the sewers held nearly 100 clowns, as a man reported more at the farm, making the captain wonder if it was a ploy, so he gave the order to split their forces, and the captain, Happy, and a leader shared a look. Deep in the sewers, Happy faced an army, but the man scrambles up and sprints away as the man screams he's an exile clown, as the clown from the city caught his breath. But Happy just smiled, saying they came to kill, so he would fight until he died too, and the leader watched, confident in his numbers. Happy exploded forward with the first punch as the entire army of clowns drew their blades, charging forward in a wave of fury, and he gripped his sword, vowing to save Ellie. He dove into the fray with deadly slashes and carved a path through the enemy ranks as a clown screamed for him to fight, his sword cleaving through two men at once. He moved like a phantom through the chaos, then blocking two attackers at the same time, but another attack came from behind as a clown lunged with a savage snarl, but his hand was sliced, his sword dropping. And Happy sent him flying with a kick. The remaining clowns saw only a monster, and their leader realized he wasn't killing, his gaze fixed on Ellie, certain he could win. Enraged, the leader ordered them to attack, so he looked down at the terrified girl, but the leader just smirked, saying it's too late, and finally fired the bolt, but a body suddenly appeared to take the shot as he saw William collapse to the ground. And the leader crashed hard, his weapon shattering, using the chaos to sneak toward his sister, but Happy told him to keep her safe. Turning back to the fight with a grin, seeing the battle was not a fight but a slaughter, as if he had eyes covering his entire body. Remembering he thought Happy was just a good fighter, but seeing this he wondered what he was. And in this moment he saw the answer, concluding that no one could ever defeat him. Even the clown leader questioned if he was human, but Happy deflected it with a flick of his sword, and the remaining clowns cried out for their boss, who gritted his teeth, refusing to back down, ducking under a swing from his own man. And grabbing a pouch from a fallen body, he screamed for his men to fall back, charging forward to face Happy himself, but was shocked by his raw power, their duel a blur of parries and strikes, who screamed that it couldn't end like this, yelling his revenge had only just begun. A memory surfaced of a man asking about his parents and warning him never to be consumed by hate or he'd become a worse monster than them, screaming his name as Happy collapsed. And the truth of that day was lost to rumors, while at the university his name was on every tongue. And this legend of his power grew. He was running desperately toward the farm, and we cut to an epilogue, a man in a cell remembering when the war hero was a friend. But the prisoner blamed his fall on one man, and the prisoner revealed he was the lone survivor of a man slaughtering an army with a baby, and now that same monster has returned. As the prisoner demanded to know who he is, arguing a true monster would not have spared them, and declared the prisoner was the only monster. As Happy confessed, he was all he had left. As he ran blindly towards the knights, and he grabbed the young woman, pulling her close, but she held him tight, saying it was okay. And he finally collapsed in her arms, thinking it would be safer if Happy had died, but admitting that would be hard to watch too. As the still night was filled with a cricket's chirp, then a sudden rustle of leaves broke the silence, seeing a knight in armor scolding him for acting alone, reminding him their mission was to kill royalty, and giving a final warning to obey or be purged. Leaving the man to stare at a distant light, the very next day a royal decree was announced commanding them to appear before the king at once. As an official explained, the king would grant him knighthood. All he had to do was kneel and accept, but William looked down, saying he was not qualified. As William admitted none of the feats were his, confessing it was all Happy while he just ran and hid, revealing the king already knew the entire truth. He explained the political problem that a slave can't be a knight. So William's story as a student was the perfect cover. This whole arrangement had to remain a state secret, and William was left alone with the weight of this lie. He knelt before the king, praised for his great deeds as the crowd roared his name when he was knighted. The king then decreed that Happy would be his apprentice, and Happy knelt as well, now bound to William's side. But Happy just smiled, saying William kept them safe, admitting he was too naive to see the world's dangers. And how he didn't know to get help for his sister, confessing that without William he would have lost it all. He called William one of the strongest people he knew, a strength from his mind, not just from his body, and William was left speechless, a tear on his cheek. And in that moment William vowed to never run again, and William promised to teach him everything he knew. Happy's eyes widened with a new sense of hope. The two of them then headed out to the knight's barracks, but at the barracks they were met with outrage as one apprentice refused to accept a former slave. He threw his training sword down at Happy's feet as the knight vowed to prove Happy was unqualified. He brought up the recent battle with the clowns, but then pointed at Happy, calling him an untrained fool. But the knight smirked, seeing his fear as proof, but Happy just picked up the sword completely unfazed, and his opponent warned this was not a friendly spar. He raised his weapon for a powerful overhead strike, taunting him, calling it an honor for a slave. But William realized Happy had blocked every attack. He knew the punch was actually an act of mercy. In his mind, Happy became a terrifying monster, asking if he had truly come here to win. Then endure it, he said as the knight faced his fear. And the knight raised his sword in defense, confused, reminding them he had brought the two here himself. He asked the challenger if he had a complaint, insisting he had no complaints, his face pale with fear. With a single word, the instructor dismissed them all, explaining they were here to be poster boys, not knights. They would have no missions, only lessons and events, and William realized they were just symbols for a lie. But he asked if they could at least observe the training, and the instructor questioned why he would want to. William said he couldn't live a lie and be powerless, thinking the king's fake hero might be a real one. He turned to Happy, asking if he felt the same, and Happy beamed, confirming their promise to get strong. Later, the instructor reviewed a report on Happy's past, learning he was raised by fighters who were not just criminals but legendary war prisoners, and the instructor wished he could ask Happy's master. The official record was a dead-end origin unknown, suspecting a link to a dark incident from his past. For now, he would just observe the new arrivals. He watched them, thinking they were two of a kind, one with potential for growth, the other with raw skill. He agreed to let them observe the training freely. He then handed over a large bag of reward money, and his grandfather celebrated with tears in his eyes, promising to do his chores later. As he ran out the door, his grandparents watched him go, calling him their lucky charm. From that day on, the two boys trained relentlessly. Where Happy pointed out a specific knight to William, he explained the key was not the sword but the footwork, a lesson that could only be learned through action. As William explained the technique of centering your body, he noted the knight's stance was faster, giving an edge, and Happy praised his insight, suggesting they just watch. As their training shifted from the yard to the library, but William was stunned when Happy already knew it. Happy just grinned, saying he guessed from the context. He learned to tell time from the sun's position, and William called an end to their lesson for the day. Happy looked up at the sky, a little confused, realizing with a gasp that it was already night. He dashed off, shouting a quick goodbye to William, who watched him go, a fire burning in his eyes, vowing that he would not be left behind either. Worrying about the dangerous roads at night, and thinking about Happy, who she hadn't seen in days. Exhausted from work, she just wanted to go home. She called out that the shop was closed, but a cheerful voice answered from the other side. It was Happy, who was here to walk her home, then realized his good fortune was real after all. He proudly announced he was now a free citizen. Overjoyed, she wanted to do something for him too, but Happy said her smile was all he needed, as she thanked him for giving her hope for the future. And he asked if she was taking her medicine, and she assured him she was feeling much better. They arrived to find his grandfather waving them over as a man congratulated Happy on joining the Knights. She thought it was just a small family meal, but his grandfather had invited everyone from the market. He cheerfully admitted he spent all the reward money. Happy explained it was a bonus for becoming an apprentice, but she shouted that it was his money as the crowd cheered. A villager called for the elder to give a toast. He raised his mug to Happy, the future kingdom knight, and everyone cheered. Happy clapped along with them, beaming with pure joy, asking his grandfather why he threw such a huge party. He explained that Happy's past as a slave won't just disappear, and that many in the kingdom would still curse him for it. This feast was to make everyone remember he is their family, and since Happy showed them his heart, they would show theirs. Winnie softened, wishing he'd just said so from the start, and he added it was to show Happy what it means to live together. And Winnie watched him with a warm, knowing smile. Just then, a familiar voice called out his name. It was William, and Happy excitedly invited him to join, then laughed, assuring the man he never hated him. The grandfather called for another toast as the party continued. Elsewhere, an old man sat by a fire, speaking darkly, admitting the sight of Happy's grandfather made him sick. He told his companion Sagar to achieve something great, then made an excuse to leave for more alcohol until a hooded messenger appeared with a mission. The date was set for 2 months from now at the tournament, and on that day the king's assassination would be carried out. The scene then shifts to the annual Knights Order tournament, a grand arena where warriors clash before the king. A massive crowd filled the stands for the event where the top 10 official knights would be selected for apprentices. It was a chance for true honor, and a strong performance was the fastest path to promotion. Happy tried to read a notice about the tournament boasting that his noble family was funding the event. He declared with a smug grin that this was his stage, and it would be disgusting to have a former slave on it. The noble's son warned that all the families agreed, then turned to another apprentice to mock someone else, recounting how a boy was beaten so badly he cried, scoffing that the opponent was weaker than a baby. Happy just smiled, saying their taunts had convinced him to join, that a liberal arts exam had been added to the process. William believed the host family was trying to exclude him. And meanwhile, the noble's son offered a gift to an apprentice, revealing it was the answer sheet for the exam. This blonde apprentice refused, saying he didn't need it, but the noble's son taunted him about losing his streak as the noble's son gave him a knowing smirk. Meanwhile, Happy told William the taunts made him want to compete, and Happy asked if he was willing to beat the system. William admitted they were far behind in study time, but he thought he could predict the exam questions. Happy was stunned, asking if that was even possible. And William explained he was always first by knowing the examiners. If his predictions were right, they might just pass, though he warned it was a very slim possibility. A week later, he passed the exam, celebrating among the shocked apprentices. With the tournament a month away, his success enraged many. The host family's son was furious, accusing Happy of cheating, and other nobles were outraged their children scored lower. But a few who saw him studying felt ashamed of themselves. Having seen the values of old war heroes in his answers, he argued that the will to protect people must come first, but about saving it the philosophy of a true warrior. One of the examiners was visibly moved by his words, and this examiner offered a small bit of help. He saw more than a simple fighter in Happy's past. With a determined grin, he wanted to see Happy's journey unfold. Later, Happy asked William if he would join the tournament, but William hesitated, fearing his skills weren't enough. Happy then posed a question: what if he could become strong enough? And the arrogant noble's son called it a waste of time. He led his group away, laughing at the mouse in the warehouse, leaving William to wonder if that's how he really looked. He realized his own movements were completely messed up, so Happy suggested a way to fix it by sparring. He would mirror William's every move to help him improve, and William was stunned, questioning if that was possible, but Happy stood ready, declaring it was his turn to help. William entered the training hall with a new focus. William lunged forward with incredible speed. He had to dodge, defend, and measure distance. At once, this wasn't just a fight, it was a game of moves, a world of strategy where Happy had always lived. And now William was finally starting to see it clearly, ducking under a swift attack from Happy. But then he realized this attack was a feint, and knew a counterattack was the only answer. Realizing, Happy faked a slash to deliver a thrust. He let out a breath, defeated in the exchange. The warrior he used to be, with one day left, William had remade himself completely. But more surprising than his own progress was Happy, who had perfectly copied his every mistake and habit. Happy cheerfully suggested they end early for the day, and William agreed, a new confidence on his face, telling him to simply sit by the king and greet people. He assumed William wouldn't join to hide his lack of skill, knowing a month of training was nothing against real knights. Still, he declared his intention to take the evaluation. The host family's patriarch feigned fairness to the judges. The opening match was announced: William versus the rank 2 knight. The commander quietly told the knight to go easy on him, revealing William had never even held a sword before. He ordered the knight to end it quickly to avoid suspicion, but he was also curious about Happy's skills. But before the match even started, William lunged forward, and the nobles mocked him for making a rookie mistake. But the rank 2 knight seemed to sense something was wrong. He never expected to see this level of skill from William. The referee finally signaled the start of the match, a promise he would fulfill as he dodged with impossible speed. He flowed across the arena, a blur of motion, and in the crowd only Happy knew the truth, one that even Happy struggled to keep up with. But his judgment is flawless and his strikes are precise, as he landed a clean blow against the knight, but then he would strike like a seasoned predator. The crowd was stunned, realizing this was no mere demonstration, and he tightened his grip on the wooden sword. But William suddenly stopped his attack, confused. He had wanted a real fight, a true test of his skill, and he was ready to give it his absolute all. While the commander marveled at his unexpected skill, but the knight revealed the truth: he couldn't continue, as he was forced to put weight on his injured foot, and with a grim look he admitted his own defeat. In the crowd, an apprentice scoffed at the outcome, speculating that William was baiting a bigger attack, a clever strategy to counter with his limited strength. Griping about how lucky the servant was to get real training, when Happy suddenly offered them a chance to train too, and the lead apprentice tried to regain his composure. A crowd eagerly begging for a chance to train with William, refusing to go through a servant to get to a knight. A smug noble watched the chaos begin to unfold, calling them forward as if they were livestock. Other nobles praised the man's son for not tolerating filth, as 2 apprentices prepared for their match in the arena. This smug noble's son licked his lips, eager to take his opponent apart. Elsewhere, an apprentice called out to his friend Finn, asking about his previous fight with the guy now in the ring. His friend explained that he happened to see that match, remembering how Finn screamed in denial after his defeat, but he also recalled something strange about the victor, a distinct feeling that his opponent was holding back. Finn just got angry, refusing to talk about it. His friend pressed on, asking him a simple question: could he actually win if they were to fight again? Finn was struck silent, a cold sweat on his brow as a terrifying memory of that fight flashed in his mind. His friend admitted he gets a weird sense of discomfort from that guy. Finn just scoffed, saying he only looks dumb to him, but they would find out the truth with this match as Happy grinned, ready for his evaluation to begin, telling him to only use proper swordsmanship in the tournament. He realized during their first spar that the judges are biased, and they won't acknowledge Happy's true unorthodox skill. Happy grinned, ready for a fight made just for him, dismissing it as the only thing he probably knows, while the smug noble offered his son a huge bonus for winning. He drove his opponent back with a powerful thrust, causing the noble's son to cry out in shock, and brought his sword down with incredible power, leaving him staring at the sky in total disbelief. A thin line of red appeared on his forehead and he collapsed to the ground, utterly defeated. While the other apprentices couldn't believe it was over so quickly, the smug noble seethed with rage in the stands, and the referee suddenly waved a flag ordering the fight to continue. William and the commander stared in disbelief at the blatant corruption as the referee admitted to himself he took a massive bribe. He had to ensure the noble's son would win by decision, yelling that even a graze would secure victory with bonus points. The noble's son got to his feet, vowing to stop being careless. And William watched, horrified that the match was actually resuming. The noble's son thought he'd figured out Happy's only trick, a simple plan to dodge the thrust and then counterslash. But Happy's next attack slammed right into his guard. He screamed that he hadn't shown his real swordsmanship, yet inventing a flimsy excuse to restart the match again. Finn's friend watched, realizing the difference in skill was massive, and William saw it for what it was, a perfect victory. While Happy just smiled, telling his rival to get up, knowing by the scoring his opponent was already defeated. As he told the noble's son, he heard he was a top apprentice, but from what he could see he was just bottom tier. Happy explained he's watched everyone train for a month, a spirit that intimidates others into giving up early, and Finn realized Happy said the exact same thing to him. The noble's son snapped, screaming as he charged forward. Happy easily blocked the desperate attack, but Happy knew his fighting spirit was already broken, that Happy had planned this from the very start. The noble's son stared at his broken hilt in confusion, the blade now stuck in the dirt at his feet. Happy even offered to fight him with his fists, and the referee finally declared Happy the winner. In the stands, the smug noble recoiled in utter shock as his son collapsed in total humiliation, and Happy asked William if just winning wasn't enough. William explained it's about showing the will of a knight, telling him to look around if he didn't understand. The lead apprentice stepped forward, demanding a match with Happy. But the commander knew the crowd was united in one desire. The lead apprentice said the last opponent was just hot air. He told him to come at him with everything he's got, and Finn's friend was stunned by this sudden change in personality. The lead apprentice gripped his sword ready for battle and unleashed a powerful opening strike, but Happy met it with a lightning-fast thrust. Their blades blurred in a flurry of attacks, and a red-clad observer realized this wasn't apprentice-level skill. He saw a solid foundation with nowhere to run. As their swords locked in the center of the arena, and grinned, acknowledging his opponent was no ordinary fighter. The lead apprentice claimed his own style was superior, and official screamed that his head was cut off, but it was just a joke, he had only fainted. The hilt of the sword being the final blow. Touching his bruised neck, he admitted it was flawless, but true defeat comes from moves you've never seen. The apprentice felt his entire world had collapsed, but Happy told him he just broke the mold and saw a vision of a true brutal battlefield. But William had already found him some sparring partners. A whole crowd of apprentices now wanted to train with him, and Happy was officially confirmed for the tournament ceremony. The young girl wanted to cheer for her hero Happy, and Happy quickly hid the secret message, a charm meant to protect him from the dead. It was a reward for all his hard work here. Happy accepted the gift, feeling it's exactly what he needs. His master joked about his salary, and they headed off. In a misty forest, a knight read a similar note. The younger knight begged him to run and warn the kingdom. A lone assassin declared her mission to kill the king. To when the boss of the exile clowns was jailed. In a dark cell, he was tortured by a mysterious knight who demanded to know who targeted the royal family. The knight revealed their initial suspect was innocent, explaining how a noble took the fall to close the case. But the knight's group was still hunting the true culprit. The boss questioned his authority to investigate further. He knew this man wasn't from the official knight order. The knight admitted his faction also planned to kill the royals. They had to plant a corpse to redirect the investigation, warning that one more mistake would ruin everything. The boss realized assassins were hidden everywhere, and the prisoner finally broke his silence. He explained she was an outsider, not one of them, who joined them with the sole purpose of killing the king. They gave her intel, and she immediately captured a royal. The boss explained how Kalina captured a royal and sold him off while he pleaded for his life. She then disappeared into the crowd without a trace, but the boss claimed she never gave them a reason. The story returns to the present in a misty forest where an armored figure confronts Kalina for her actions and attacked with incredible speed. She vowed to see the face beneath the helmet as she unleashed a flurry of attacks with her own chains. His helmet was knocked off, revealing a scarred face. She held a blade to his throat, demanding the truth. He revealed he's from a group that shares her goal, warning that her public scenes will ruin everything. But he warned the assassination is already in motion, so she demanded to be part of their plot. The scarred fighter questioned her sudden change of heart. She was brought before a ritual in a dark chamber, and the leader dismissed her with a simple command. She was ordered to find his son and become a servant. The assassin looked confused by the strange mission as the scene shifted to a laborer named Sagar. With only 3 days left, the arena stood ready. Elsewhere, shadows gathered in a secret meeting until a skeptical noble suggested it was all a lie. One noble slammed his fist, outraged by the revelation, but the plotter calmly asked if he was certain. This man insisted his son knows about William, and the slave, a flashback, showed how the truth began to surface, questioning how a weakling could suddenly defeat a gang. Guard testimony revealed William only took credit for the bounty. Another noble added that his son overheard a secret conversation. Learning that William has never even held a sword, the other lords were shocked, realizing the duel was staged. Seeing their chance, the nobles began to speak up one by one. They learned that Happy was actually quite famous in the arena, but his supporters went silent after the royal incident. The plotter decided their true target is the fake hero William, but the others worried since attacking him insults royal authority. The plotter revealed his plan, a fake kidnapping on tournament day. Hired actors will pose as clowns and take a noble hostage, demanding a duel with William as the crowd watches. This would put William in a trap with no escape, and with a noble's life on the line, the knight order must comply. Meanwhile, Happy and the young girl ran through a field cheering, and he tossed a few into a fire to roast, and they stomped on the shells to get them open, revealing the warm roasted nuts inside. Happy and the little girl enjoyed their snack together. The girl admitted she just wanted to play with Happy. They played in a shower of falling leaves, laughing freely. Until someone called for the girl Ellie to come home. Now alone, Happy and Sagar sat by the fire, and Sagar asked how he feels about the tournament. Happy just smiled. Happy his friends will be there. Sagar then questioned if the Knight Order is what he truly wants, knowing he's been forced to fight his whole life. With his pain healed, his reasons to fight were gone, but Happy said this is different from the arena. Their people died even when he didn't want them to, but here people stay, and there's a chance for a future. That's why he likes it here, leaving Sagar to ponder his words. Explaining that peace has lasted for 20 years now, he stood up, announcing his grandma bought meat for them. As a robed man delivered a letter from a dead lord, and explained he's tracked Happy from a distant land. A woman explained Happy is no longer a slave, and the king wondered where the royal children were. A knight captain ordered his men to maintain their posture. Happy stood with the other commoners ready to compete. Nearby, the plotting nobles watched grimly, William among them. In the bushes, Kalina and her new ally waited for their moment as the scene shifted to a distant royal estate. A servant tried to wake a prince for the tournament. He saw a red-caped man standing over a massacre back in the bushes. Kalina realized she's been watched for a while, understanding now why he attacked her at the farm. She asked if that crying boy really became a knight, and her ally confirmed William's achievements were all fake. Kalina reflected, thinking William wasn't that kind of person, while the scarred man admitted he almost killed him back then. And he recalled her ruthlessness and William's connection to the bounty. She called William a scared puppy, a personal preference, declaring it's time to work. She moved from their post. She struck him with a powerful kick, taking him by surprise, as another cult member demanded to know what she was doing. Kalina pulled up her hood, stating her new plan, but the scarred man warned her to stick to the mission. She reminded him he has no room to talk after trying to kill her, then told him he's the one who misunderstands the objective. She questioned why they need squads everywhere for a simple assassination, revealing their agents are hidden in every corner of society. She asked why they would strike in broad daylight for all to see. She reveals the true order, to kill as many as possible. But the scarred man refuses to believe her wild assumptions, and Kalina taunts him for blindly following his leader. She holds up a stolen order from another agent, asking if his instructions mentioned a day of slaughter, claiming their leader is deceiving them to devour the kingdom. His hand gripping his sword, sticking to the original plan. Elsewhere, the hired kidnappers get their noble hostage ready, one of them nervously confirming their only target is William. This noble reassures them just deal with the fake hero and vanish. This name, William, seems to give one of the actors pause, but their leader tells them to hurry up and get into position. At the royal stands, a lord suddenly clutches his stomach, complaining that he needs to use the bathroom immediately. A knight offers to escort the sick noble away. This man struggles, blaming spoiled food for his agony, but the knight leads him surprisingly far from the arena, just as a cloaked figure with glowing eyes appears behind him. This noble is struck down before he can react, his body dragged into the bushes as the traitor knight looks on. A knight hears a strange cry for revenge. This hired actors demand a duel with the hero, while another claims all the nobles have been captured. This hostage urges William to step forward heroically. He starts begging for his life, confusing his captain, and the actors realize their plan is falling apart. This captain sees it's a scheme but notes their real swords. Sagar's family watches on, thinking it's a tournament event. This king furiously demands to know who is behind this prank. One of the actors sighs, admitting he only came for William. As the ropes glow red and painfully bind everyone involved, Kalina issues a new ultimatum: send William or die. Elsewhere, the true plan is revealed: kill the royals and begin the massacre. Haunted by the memory of Kalina's brutal attack and her chilling promise to destroy his entire bloodline, he lived in constant anxiety after she escaped the farm, waking every night to check on his sleeping family. He decided to channel that terror into one single purpose. Back in the present, William steps forward with resolve, but his captain warns him that he's walking to his death. This king knows that if William doesn't go, others will die, forcing him to make a choice and hope it's the right one. Wondering if William had been preparing for this very moment. He remembers dismissing the boy's stubbornness in the past. This cult member in the crowd smirks, confusing his allies. Suddenly, one of the actors swings his blade at the noble hostage, and Kalina warns them not to move, claiming all nobles are targets. This terrified noble begs them to cancel the plan immediately, but he's silenced with a swift punch to the face. One of them telling him to finally understand the situation, and the lead actor realizes their fake play has become deadly real. This lead actor realizes this is no longer a performance. One of them fears their plan is spiraling out of control, while another confronts his partner about hiring real assassins. This captain orders the actors to come with him, warning him of the consequences if he fails. But William declares with confidence that he will win. Admitting William's skills have greatly improved. But he knows the boy can't use his full strength here, not in his first real life-or-death battle. She mocks his hero act, but he vows to end her. His defiance surprises her, a testament to his training, so she decides to play with him for a bit. She lunges forward, easily deflecting his strikes, then counters with a swift kick he barely blocks. She springs off a nearby wall, keeping him off balance. He stumbles back as she closes in for another attack, but she smirks, knowing he won't have time to think. Her attacks come in a blinding flurry, and she warns him of an attack from below. She taunts him, saying she's not trying to kill him, and Kalina mocks his fear, calling him a puppy. She turns her back on him, bored with the fight, promising again that she won't kill him, but Happy sees the opening, a chance to counterattack. William lunges forward for a stab, revealing his fear was just a calculated move, wondering how the trembling boy found the nerve to attack, but Kalina's shock turns into something far more sinister. While the hired actors scream they were just following orders, but the actors insist they were only hired to harass William, and the lead actor breaks down, confessing to the entire act. When a commander warns him something is terribly wrong, this king stands in shock, seeing the empty seats. A soldier explains the captain took troops to find the nobles, falling right into the kidnapper's trap. This senior commander senses danger, ordering their immediate return. It spots a lone figure near a dark cave, and the captain reveals a hidden enemy is at work. This soldier runs for his life, an arrow in his back. She warns him the real danger is already here. As she confesses she only wanted him to escape, William asks if more of her cultists are hiding, but she confirms the clowns were just a distraction. She explains his actions created a much larger shadow, and in the crowd the cultists watch the chaos unfold. One of them draws his sword, declaring the slaughter has begun, striking him down in a shocking betrayal. As the traitorous guard lunges for the king, she finishes her warning, everyone else will die. As the contestants realize all the weapons are gone, one of them is stabbed from behind, crying for help. A young man screams out his friend's name in horror, warning the others that traitors are among them. This pressure rises as the dangerous clash keeps escalating. A woman begs a knight for help amidst the chaos, but she stabs him in a shocking betrayal, revealing she's a cultist welcoming a new world. Happy and the other contestant watch from the stage. As the cultists begin their slaughter in the stands, one of the contestants makes a run for it. A young woman desperately fends off an attacker. This entire stadium is a killing field, and a chain wraps around his arm, stopping him cold. Seeing smoke rising from the capital in the distance, he realizes the attack is happening everywhere, and he unleashes his fury on the traitors, and the cultist leader explains their bond is faith. This cultist leader preaches of staining the land with blood. His father reveals he knows the cult's true identity, a group that has worshipped a demon since the Age of War. They saw its overwhelming power as a divine, while even the exiled clown Happy was one of its victims, and the commander's father admits he knew it was the demon's work. Fearing its return, he advised the lone survivor to go into exile, but when the knight refused, he was branded a liar. It was an easy lie to sell to the other kingdoms, but this perceived safety made them the perfect sacrifice. This demon's influence had been growing in the shadows all along. His father explains the Mad King was only seeking peace and that their own people were the ones who worshipped evil. Realizing his actions were all part of a summoning ritual, he glares at his father, betrayed by the hidden truth. A scarred cultist named Sagar is told to head for the castle as the commander, now in chains, learns this was all a show for him. Sagar is ordered to leave them to finish the massacre when an elder gave them amulets to ward off the dead, where the cult leader awaits him on the throne, asking if this was the new world he was promised. This leader confirms it was all part of the plan. His master confirms it, asking how the truth feels. Sagar admits he couldn't bear to watch the slaughter, but the leader praises his will to achieve their goals. He embraces the boy, declaring it's time for their new world. But Sagar trembles, and the leader asks why he's afraid. He can hear the dead pounding on the doors, a horrifying vision of corpses trying to break through. But his master tells him to destroy it. There are no dead. This leader calls Sagar weak, an illusion created by fear, and he crushes the protective amulet under his boot, telling him to look again at the silent doors. A horde of the dead bursting through the doors. He watches in horror as they swarm his master when a new figure suddenly appears in the hall. As William explains, he never wanted to kill anyone, and that's why he always fought without lethal force, and how none of it ever made any sense to him. It was the same at the Battle of the Exiled Clowns. He refused to become a monster. This leader scoffs, reminding him he killed them all, but William's face contorts, declaring they aren't people, they're monsters. He points out Sagar left right as the chaos began. How could he have fought through them all so quickly? This leader is stunned, accusing him of stealing their weapon, and William whips the broken chain like a flail. And he draws his own blade, calling the boy a fool. He throws a dagger, but William deflects it with the chain. William catches it midair, a confident smirk on his face. As William uses the chain to swing across the hall, he hurls the captured weapon back with deadly precision. This leader can only think of his impossible skill, and the leader is visibly shaken by this display. He feels the same awe he once felt for his demon lord, convinced he's just grown weak without a true challenge. He raises his dagger, vowing to worship with blood. This leader yanks on the chain, trying to pull him and unleashing a flurry of attacks with the chain. Realizing William wrapped the chain to close the distance. It's like he's fighting a different person each time. Sagar analyzes every detail, the posture, the gaze, the intent, and he screams that the dead are fighting through William. This leader roars back that there are no dead, trying to explain it's all a matter of belief. This dead only appear to those who believe in them. He tells the leader he has never forgotten a single one, where a man named Happy carries a wounded comrade. He looks toward a distant smoking castle. A memory of a past war unfolds. And by eliminating his blind spots, he turned the tide, moving on to save the next group of soldiers. He asks a soldier if the cult leader is in the castle, realizing this path is being guarded for that very reason, and with a wild grin he charges forward. This soldier looks down at Happy on the ground. He watches, stunned, as Happy decimates the guards behind him. Later, a captain demands to know where the other troops are, and the soldier reports they were all wiped out by believers. But then a cry of reinforcements echoes across the field, leading the regrouped army toward the castle, where Happy fights alone. This scene shifts to the aftermath of the tournament, but Happy insists they must fight for those still alive, telling the leader he will be the one to finish this. He promises to kill the leader's god as well, and the leader stands his ground, a silent shadow. He lunges forward, sword aimed to strike, but the chain on William's arm blocks the blow, sending the man flying backward through the air as William suddenly appears before him with a dagger. William asks if he was just sizing them up to be killed, but Sagar insists he protected the farm people from exiles. William reveals the villagers are alive and saving others. Was chosen by a god but now saw only a weak human, telling him their faith would live on through him. As the leader crushed a small vial on his chain, a cloud of yellow poison exploded outward as the leader declared they would die here together. William collapsed, struggling against the poison's grip, while the leader revealed the chains were the delivery system. He whispered that he told them he saved the villagers because to him saving them meant killing them. The leader sat in a field of skeletons, finally understanding that he had self-destructed with his own poison. With his death, all the believers vanished without a trace, leaving a world where no one could tell victim from cultist. A flashback revealed a world consumed by paranoia, where the king died at the moment he was needed most, and the royal family and nobles were systematically eliminated, causing the entire government to collapse into chaos. The story returns to a quiet farmhouse at night, now serving as a temporary treatment center for survivors. An bandaged man explained he only grabbed Happy and got out, but the blonde person revealed even a tiny amount is fatal. A man then asked how they knew so much, and they explained their grandparents are the real experts. An elder revealed the blonde one's parents were killed by that cult after accidentally drinking from a well they had poisoned. A painful memory showed a young child watching them suffer, explaining their family's deep hatred for the religious group. As the blonde person recalled how Happy's body fought the poison, a bearded man asked if he was poisoned in the arena, but Happy just smiled, saying he didn't know why, leading him away from the others for a private word. And the soldier presented a scroll taken from a body, learning it was a will left for Happy by a man named Lucastion. The soldier confirmed the captain's hunch was right all along. This will told of a lone knight who survived a massacre, and a fanatical cult that drowned the kingdom in blood, all in service of a monster they called their god, a demon the king himself confirmed was real before he died. But Lucastion's letter revealed an even darker truth, claiming Happy was a child abandoned by that very demon. The letter's author, a nobleman, began his tale to Happy, admitting his twisted desire to witness the strongest thing alive. He wrote that Happy's parents were his ideal subjects, the perfect embodiment of strength he craved to see. So he began searching for the parents who sold Happy and vanished, and after a long hunt he finally found them, or at least the place where his own soldiers vanished without a trace. He spent years poring over ancient texts for answers, a place the kings called the demon's sleeping grounds. Generations of royalty had guarded this secret location, and the nobleman believed fate brought him Happy, the demon's abandoned child. Lucastion wrote that his harsh methods were to forge Happy's strength, because he never wanted Happy to die at the demon's hands. He declared that Happy had become his perfect ideal, and the letter included the secret location of his parents. The captain looked up, asking who else knew about this, confirming it was now just the two of them. But one thing was certain, Happy was on their side. He knew the cult was still active, trying to summon their god, and decided they must warn the allied kings of the threat. The soldier worried the kings would see them as enemies instead. So the captain resolved to hide Happy's identity for now. A long and difficult journey lay ahead of them. The scene then shifted to a celebration at night as villagers congratulated Happy on becoming a knight apprentice. A friendly neighbor introduced himself with a warm smile, but that happy memory faded, replaced by a field of graves. An old man asked Happy if it had already been 2 weeks, noting he'd been digging without a single day of rest. The survivors mourned in a field of endless graves. As the old man noted a mass burial would have been easier, the boy explained it was because he remembered them all, telling the blonde person they were memories, not just fights. As Happy continued his solemn work, the others headed inside. The old man found the blonde person slumped at a table who couldn't accept that Sagar was part of the cult. He admitted he never suspected Sagar was the leader's son, adding that Happy believed Sagar tried to save them. But they refused to see him as anything but a killer. The old man looked on, unsure what to say, when a voice called for Happy, telling him it was time to leave. Meanwhile, Sagar sat alone in a dark, confined space. A question hung in the air as the memory returned, his father's voice declaring the cult now belonged to him. The leader asked why he did nothing with this power, and Sagar admitted he lacked the heart for such a life. A survivor with pink eyes burst from a hiding spot, complaining loudly. The old man shushed them, but they insisted everyone had left. He revealed he saved them because he believed Sagar wasn't a bad person. The pink-eyed survivor asked why they were saved too, and the old man said they'd be dead without Sagar's help. He told them to run away now that they were healed, but they scoffed, saying the kingdom was too broken to hunt them. Besides, branded as fanatics, they would be hunted wherever they go. The old man panicked at the thought of them staying, but they didn't care. They turned to Sagar, asking about the cult's plans now that he was in charge. Sagar denied any interest in leadership, saying the cult moves on faith alone. The survivor asked what kind of faith that was. He solemnly stated that their god would save them. The pink-eyed survivor proposed a chilling plan: find the demon and join its side. They argued that after years of worship, they could choose who to save. The old man was horrified, but they called it their method of survival. The scene shifted to a flashback of a family packing to flee. A young man told his father they must leave the doomed kingdom now. He listened to his father's words, his expression unreadable. But then he made a shocking declaration: he was staying. He saw people trying to rise from the ruins and decided to join the knights. His father was left speechless by his son's selfless choice. Back in the present, the captain approached Happy with a proposal. They would split into 2 groups heading in different directions, and only the most trusted would go, as the cult's threat loomed large. An axe rested on a chopping block as rain began to fall. The village elders discussed the order, agreeing Happy must be sent. But the blonde person argued against it, saying he wasn't ready for a long journey. A banner flew over the grieving kingdom as they prepared to march. The captain rallied the troops, honoring the fallen king's will. He spoke of those who lost family and now sought revenge, of others who simply wished to forge a new path, and of those leaving loved ones behind like Happy. He acknowledged that everyone had their own reasons for being there. Elsewhere, the blonde person rested their head on a table, defeated. An elder told them they should go on the journey too. She reassured them they would be safe with another family, urging them to protect Happy. The blonde person looked up, stunned by the suggestion. A small pouch of flowers was tossed through the air, landing in Happy's hands as he sat in a cart. The blonde person suddenly leaped onto the moving cart, knocking Happy over as a knight told him to get used to horses. The blonde person leaned in close, whispering they were coming too. The expedition began its long journey across the countryside. How the world felt so big, yet now it shrank behind him. He asked with wide-eyed wonder just how big the world is, and the blonde person mused it was too vast to see in one lifetime. Happy was completely amazed by the thought of it, which brought a small smile to their companion's face. As evening approached, the captain called a halt for the night. He assigned the first watch, telling the soldier to rest up. The captain finally turned, demanding to know why they were here. They cheekily explained that every expedition needs a healer. They reminded him they saved his life from poison. He vouched for their skill, recalling their heroics at the tournament. The captain glared defeated as the blonde person smiled in victory. With the argument settled, the group made camp for the night. Happy and the blonde person worked together, setting up for dinner. A soldier asked if he'd brought enough water for the camp. A pot of stew bubbled over the warm campfire, and the blonde person hummed, pleased with their cooking. They mentioned the captain and another soldier were out scouting. Deciding to save a portion for the night on watch, Happy excitedly asked when they could finally eat, and they both looked up, startled by the noise. A lone traveler on horseback emerged from the darkness, slowly making his way toward their camp, but he simply tipped his hat as he passed by. The man continued on his journey without a word, and Happy just assumed he was a fellow traveler. But under the same moon, a darker scene unfolded as the traveler revealed a stash of stolen jewels to a group of bandits. He told them he found more things to rob on the way, ordering them to gather the loot before he returned. His men celebrated the abundance of prey in the area. Meanwhile, the captain deemed the area safe, finishing his patrol, walking right past a pile of hidden bodies, completely unaware of the threat. While the knight on watch enjoyed a bowl of stew, but from the bushes, unseen eyes watched the camp, and the bandits froze, thinking they had been caught. But Happy just cheerfully announced he needed to pee, and the guard waved him off into the darkness. Happy wandered away from the safety of the camp as the bandits began to creep forward silently. They assumed he had come out looking for them, but the boy was just searching for the perfect spot. The bandits saw their chance, take him out first, and they closed in on Happy's unsuspecting back. An axe swung down for the killing blow, but a massive log smashed the attacker away. The other bandits were suddenly ambushed by flying wood, and it was Happy effortlessly dispatching them with a wild grin before a powerful kick sent him flying. As Happy just smiled down at his pleas for mercy, he casually dusted off his hands asking if they were believers, but the man insisted they were just simple bandits, and he pulled a familiar golden bag from the bandit's cloak. He recognized it from the traveler who passed by earlier, wondering if that man was a victim or part of the ambush. He examined the bag, a suspicion growing in his mind, realizing the traveler was targeting their camp all along. The commotion woke the others, who rushed over demanding answers. Happy cheerfully presented his captives, saying he brought them for a chat. The captain interrogated the men, learning the road ahead was swarming with bandits. They confessed that multiple gangs had gathered in the area, each claiming their own territory in a free-for-all for loot. Their boss, the strongest of them all, held the front position. The captain realized the entire road had become a death trap. A soldier noted the rise in bandits was due to refugees from the kingdom. This meant rumors of their kingdom's fall had already spread. And the captain agreed, given how much time had passed. A direct fight was impossible with their limited numbers and supplies. The blonde person asked if there was any way through at all when a dark-haired soldier proposed a bold idea: disguise. They could exploit the power balance between the rival gangs, pretending to be a group returning from a successful raid. He explained they could travel along the gang borders, posing as a strong gang returning from a raid. But the captain saw a fatal flaw in them, as their disguise would be exposed with a single question. He turned to their captives with a new idea, mapping out the dangerous territories ahead. Happy, now disguised, asked if their guide was scared, but the man just wanted to know if they would be spared. The captain promised they were knights who keep their word, muttering that his boss would rescue them anyway. Wondering how a group of nobodies took out his men, a subordinate asked if they should investigate, ordering his crew to prepare a bribe for the city guards. And a captive confidently told the others their boss was coming. Just then the captain offered him a bowl of stew, and the bandits were stunned by the act of kindness, as the captain told them to enjoy their last meal. William and the dark-haired soldier observed the captives, but he reminded William they tried to kill him with an axe. William just laughed, remembering the attack. On the third day, the tied-up bandits trudged behind the cart, figuring their boss must have taken another route. One captive begged the captain to spare them, promising to be a guide, but the captain coldly replied that actions speak louder than words. 3 hours later, they continued their journey down the path. William asked one of the men why their boss wasn't with them, who explained they need to earn citizenship by looting, when a rustling sound came from the nearby grass. The captain and his men also turned, sensing the danger, as another group of bandits burst from the trees with a war cry. The horses panicked as the captain tried to control his mount, his eyes wide with surprise at the sudden ambush. An overhead view revealed they were completely surrounded. A new heavily armed bandit leader stepped forward. He said they needed a negotiator for this standoff, and a captive volunteered, claiming he knew the bandit lingo. The captain grabbed him, looking for a better idea, shouting a crude insult at the new bandit leader. He explained it was a power move his boss always used. William on the cart told someone to draw their sword, but the captain stepped in, blocking a heavy blow. The bandit leader fired back, demanding to know who they were. He claimed to know every gang but not their faces. So the captive quickly improvised they were a new gang, and the captain played along, asking if he wanted a war. But the leader was suspicious. Newbies don't get the front line. The captain pressed, saying they just wanted to pass through. The bandit leader was taken aback by his confidence, but revealed his own camp was just up the road. The captain and his men stood in grim silence, and he shoved the captive down with a single command, using the man as a club to smash the bandit leader. The leader stumbled back, stunned by the sudden attack. Just then a man in a boar helm appeared, calling the bandits fools for not recognizing their prey, and the captives confirmed they were a top-tier gang. A blonde knight grabbed a captive in a rage, screaming at him for provoking such a deadly crew. But it was too late. A bandit charged forward, and though the attack was blocked, a captive was struck down. The battle erupted as the captives cowered by the wagon. The captain defended the horses from another attacker, ordering his men to use the wagons for cover. The bandit leader just grinned, ready for the slaughter, and ordered his men to take everything they had. The expedition prepared for the charge. From atop the cart, the captain's polearm deflecting a blow to the wagon wheel, while the dark-haired soldier engaged 2 bandits at once. Meanwhile, the boar-helmed leader clashed with another soldier. The soldier's shield held firm against a bandit's axe, and the bandit leader couldn't believe their skill. As another attacker was tossed from the wagon, a bandit on the ground screamed about something in the cart, and one of the original captives peered over the edge, who the bandits now targeted as the weakest link. Leaving his attacker completely stunned, then sent the man flying with a brutal kick. In moments, the area around the cart was cleared, and a soldier reported that Happy's side was secure. The bandit leader screamed at his men to press the attack, while the expedition used the captives as a moving shield. William gave the order to hold the line here, but the boar-helmed leader ordered them to ignore it and fight. He reminded them that their main camp was just ahead, and with a roar he called for all his reinforcements. The boar-helmed leader grinned, asking whose life ends today, and while the expedition looked grim, William was absolutely thrilled. With one of them remembering his time with the expedition, he recalled his capture and the stern soldier's gaze as he sat with his crew, hungry and defeated. The captain's harsh words echoed to earn your meal, followed by a sharp, sudden blow to his head. But he also remembered being forced to look up as if he was seeing the soldier for the first time. Back in the present, he tripped and fell down hard, but his friend was there to help him up, urging him onward. The captain's words replayed in his mind to show you want to live, and he suddenly stopped, much to his friend's confusion, declaring that they all had to earn their keep. His fellow captives just stared at him, unsure what he meant. With a unified war cry, they charged back towards the fight, spotting the battle that was raging in the distance. A well-aimed rock smacked the boar-helmed leader in the face, while William spun into the fray with a borrowed axe, and he countered with a devastating punch of his own as our boy then zeroed in on his next target. He smashed the boar-helmed leader right in the face, but the leader only growled, refusing to be beaten, and the boar-helmed man screamed out in surrender. In just an instant, the entire battlefield was cleared. As their captain admitted, the rumors were no exaggeration, and his men agreed they had to trust Happy's plan. William had promised to take them all down by himself, and now the captives asked the blonde knight how they won, but she just yelled at them, asking why they returned. A soldier reported the wagon was wrecked and the horses gone. William suggested they should just loot the bandit camp, which left the captain and his men completely speechless. Meanwhile, one of the horses was actually still nearby. As the captain ordered his men to break all the weapons, the soldiers felt a bit strange about this whole situation, admitting that they now felt like actual bandits themselves. But the captain justified it, saying the loot belongs to the kingdom, and his men were confident, remembering Happy's incredible skill. The former captives now eagerly served their new captain, who proudly announced the departure of the Hermod bandit gang. And so this unlikely crew set off together down the road. And a new, more dangerous bandit later appeared. Learning his men were wiped out by some new gang, he demanded to know the name of this new crew, so he grabbed one of the expedition's men in frustration. He couldn't believe they were beaten by unknown monsters, and the man blurted out their new name, the Hermod bandit gang. They even claimed to be demons straight from hell, but the leader just scoffed at the ridiculous name. He got to the real point, that they took all the loot, and his subordinate admitted they were utterly powerless, as he vowed to hunt them down and take back everything. On the seventh day, the expedition neared the kingdom, arriving at an outer outpost of the defense force, and his captain couldn't believe bandits would be so bold. As the expedition arrived looking just like a bandit crew, the captain ordered his men to shoot them on sight, recognizing the infamous leader of the Iron Fang bandits. He couldn't understand what was happening at their gate. Elsewhere, a defeated bandit reported to the Iron Fang leader, claiming they were wiped out by just a single person. But the leader struck him down, saying he already knew. He knew they were heading for the kingdom, and that couldn't happen. Back in the present, the Iron Fang gang rode up fast, their leader smirking, glad he had caught them in time. And one of the former captives called out to the bandit leader, who recognized William and the blonde knight from the woods. He asked if they were the so-called Hermod bandit gang, then questioned why his men joined them instead of attacking. The captain then stepped forward, warning against a fight here. He shouted to the guards, demanding passage as allied knights, as the outpost captain scoffed at their bold claims, doubting they could have survived the bandit forest. The expedition's captain insisted it was just a disguise, but the guard on the wall pretended he couldn't hear, telling them to kill all the bandits first. But his captain silenced him with a sharp threat. The expedition captain realized this outpost was for rejects, shouting up at the wall to get their attention. But the Iron Fang leader interrupted, done with all the talk, and one of the captives warned them to run from the monster. But the expedition captain ordered his men to form ranks. William, who had fought the hardest, was nearly collapsing, and a captive asked him why he wasn't running, but William just drew his sword, saying there's nowhere left to go. The expedition captain declared they don't fight for treasure, but for the people they are sworn to protect. But the Iron Fang leader scoffed at the challenge, revealing he planned to kill them all from the start. In a flashback, a different bandit leader attacked his own men, vowing to kill all the useless idiots in his crew. He cut down one of the captives without hesitation, but another captive blocked the next attack with a shield. He rushed to his brother's side, seeing the wound, telling him they needed to stop the bleeding now. His brother tried to help him to his feet, but the dying man said he always fought to protect them. Back in the present, the Iron Fang leader loved the fight. Then the captain made a shocking move, throwing one of his men. The captain used his own man to break their fall. The bandit leader unleashed his fury on another soldier, but his attack was blocked by a shield. He hurled his axe at another, sending him flying back, while the man used as a cushion lay dead below. Even the expedition's men were stunned by the chaos, but the outpost guards just watched impassively from the wall. William's eyes burned with anger at the senseless violence. He confronted the leader, asking how he could betray his own men, but the leader just scoffed at the idea of comradeship. Clashing blades with the Iron Fang leader once more. The bandit leader pressed his assault, vowing to kill him. None of the other Iron Fang bandits had moved at all, and he questioned their absolute obedience to their leader, realizing the entire battle hinged on this one duel. He wondered if this was Sir Hermod's plan all along. Happy had explained his current style was too aggressive, that he lacked the stamina for such risky moves. He couldn't keep gambling on life-or-death blows, and instead must use the shield to create a strategy, to let it absorb the attack while he planned his next move. It was a way to conserve his strength and body to endure until an opening finally appears, then he could execute his attack with certainty. A memory of Happy's own battle flashed in his mind. Back in the present, the outpost guards were stunned, and one of them turned to his captain in disbelief. that the bandits heard tales of Happy's overwhelming power. It was the fear that had been planted deep inside them. This whole battle was a chessboard where only the leader needs to fall. A sacrifice made for a future they could believe in. Leaving a trail of defeated bandits in his wake back in the present, the Iron Fang leader was furious, his rage exploding as he promised a swift end. The leader's madness is what made him a monster, his bloodied fist connecting with brutal finality. He lay dead, his reign of terror finally over. On the wall, the outpost guards were frozen in shock. He frantically yelled for his men to open fire, but the archer looked down, confused by what he saw. As Happy stood among the dead, a terrifying grin on his face, as the bodies of the fallen lay all around him, the outpost captain finally relented, ordering them taken to the guard post. The heavy gate began to lift as the outpost captain watched them from the tower above. He was sweating, still shaken by the display of power. Meanwhile, in a village far away from the kingdom, a woman with long black hair complained about their mission, questioning why they were in such a rundown bar. As a new group of bandits stormed the tavern, she begged for her life, pleading with the woman at the table. As the bandit shoved the woman to the floor again, the fallen woman got up, apologizing for the trouble. Her companion finally spoke, revealing their purpose, and the bandit leader demanded to know what was happening. As the black-haired woman stormed out of the building, furious that her companion didn't warn her, she remarked on the chilling nature of this cult, but her companion said it's not insanity, it's faith. She scoffed at the idea, believing faith always fades. His father, a cult founder, had left him with no answers, and now there was only one way to get them. He must confront the demon at the cult's origin, a mission to hunt down believers for information. They would follow the trail to the demon's true form, but she questioned his goal, revealing her own. She scoffed, believing survival means siding with the strong. And he revealed it's the king of an allied nation. Elsewhere, a king was told an expedition had arrived, a strange ruler with an unsettling mask-like face. The woman was stunned. A cult member sat on a throne, but her companion said there's more she doesn't know. The time to stop the cult has already passed. At that same moment, another expedition found a city burning, their commander declaring this slaughter is only the beginning.